the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, number one, don't believe in any form of integration, and believe that every mention of the word integration by whites, whether it be from the mouth of Kennedy on down to the mouth of the lowest, raggediest white liberal in the street who beaten his life involving himself in these integration efforts. If we believed in it, we would integrate. We would fight anybody who got in our way, or made any effort whatsoever to stop us from integrating. If we really believe that the law of the land, the Supreme Court, and other so-called judicial bodies were for real when they talked about integration, we would integrate. And knowing that the law was on our side, any effort we made to demonstrate toward integration, while we would the law should be on our side. If it is the law, if it is the law of the land, then it demonstrates the law within the law. And the discriminated on against the law. But to show you the hypocrisy of the law, when Negroes demonstrated for integration, instead of arresting the discriminators, the law arrests the demonstrators. So this is a foolish move on the part of Negroes. And when you foolishly get yourself involved with an enemy, then whatever comes upon you, that's your wish. As we believe that separation is the law in the face of powerful forces. But on the other hand, when we see our people brutalized by white bigots, white racists, we think that they are foolish to allow themselves to be beaten, brutalized, and do nothing whatsoever to protect themselves. They are foolish. They should have the right to defend themselves against any attack dealt against them by anyone. The dog is biting the black man should kill the dog. Whether the dog is a police dog, a hound dog, or any kind of dog. If a dog is sick on a black man, and that black man is doing nothing but trying to take advantage of what the government says is supposed to be his, then that black man should kill that dog, or any two-legged dog who sits the dog on.
Together as one nation, indivisible. And I want to be perfectly clear. I'm not talking about unity for the sake of unity. So hear me out. I'm not talking about unity for the sake of unity. I'm not talking about some facade of unity. And I believe we must acknowledge that the word unity has often been used
black thinking will cause all black people to stick together. And this type of thinking also will bring an end to the brutality inflicted on black people by white people. It is the only thing that will bring an end to it. No federal court, state court, or city court will bring an end to it. It's something that the black man has to bring an end to himself.
Let's remember, when abolitionists spoke out and civil rights workers marched, their oppressors said they were dividing the races and violating the word of God. But representatives said it best. And Harriet Tubman and us
meaningful or believed by whites.
to love the religion of Jesus is to hate the religion
towards the civil rights
of
movement
the
in
slave
general,
master.
and particularly the Reverend Martin Luther King and his philosophy of nonviolent direct action.
If the white people really passed
When we have
laws,
true unity,
it would
no
not be
one will
necessary to pass any more laws.
be subjugated for
There are
others.
already enough
It's about
laws
fighting for a country
to protect an
with
American
equal
citizen.
treatment,
You won't
collective
need
purpose,
additional laws when you're dealing with someone who's not been
and
governed
freedom
as
for
an
all.
American citizen. But whites are so hypocritical. They don't want to admit that this black man is not a citizen. So they classify him as a second-class citizen to get around making him a real citizen.
And
If he was a
so,
real citizen, you There be no more laws. There be no civil rights legislation. Civil rights, when you have civil rights, you have citizenship. It's automatic. White people don't need laws to protect their citizenship because they're citizens. But they don't want to tell us we're not citizens. And at the same time, they don't want to pass laws that are meaningful enough to protect us as if we were citizens. And the Supreme Court desegregation decision is the best example I know. That's a law.
And what has to be done.
10 years have gone by. No desegregated schools. It hasn't been implemented beyond in 10 years. So this just shows you the hypocrisy of the American government. They talk about both sides of the line. And for this reason, we are Muslims. That is, who believe in the religion of Islam, who believe in God. We don't believe that black people will ever get any problem with laws being passed or new persons being put in office, or white liberals being put in office. There is nothing that the white man will ever do to bring about true, sincere citizenship or civil rights recognition for black people in this country. Nothing will they ever do. They'll always talk it, but they won't practice. And if the Supreme Court, if the NAACP can tell me that they want a desegregation decision for me 10 years ago, but yet the schools haven't been desegregated, as I say, this is a victory with no victory. It's a victory that you can talk about, but it's a victory you can't show me. So if you represent the NAACP and you're telling me about this great victory you won for me, when I look at you, I have to conclude that either you have been duped yourself or else you were trying to dupe me. And in most instances where the civil rights struggle is involved, there is no civil rights leader can point to me one concrete gain, practical gain that black people have made in the civil rights field in this country, not only during the past 10 years, but during the past 100 years.
Now, the other part was with respect to Mr. King and the nonviolent direct action.
Well, I will let Jimmy Baldwin and John Kelly and Lou Lomax, the writers, answer that. Speaking right after this church was bombed in Birmingham, Christian church was bombed in Birmingham by Christians. And these 4 little girls were murdered. John Killings and James Baldwin and Lomax and the Negro Writers acted at a meeting at the town hall in New York. And children pointed out concerning these murders of these little girls, said the killings had raised doubts about the intelligence of nonviolence in the civil rights struggle. He went on to declare that he could no longer be asked to love those who persecuted and killed Negroes. He also, and the writer, Mr. Henry, who's describing this, said that killings, it was not clear concerning killings remarks to his audience that he was breaking with the, it was clear rather, to his audience that he was breaking with the doctrine of the Reverend Martin Luther King's philosophy that as Christians we were to love their fellow man in a true religious sense. Now, James Baldwin, speaking on that same platform, said, and I was present during this entire affair, asserted that the American people shared a collective guilt for the persecution of Negroes, much as Germans did because of their silence during the Nazi persecution. He denounced President Kennedy for what he termed Kennedy's lack of passion in the civil rights struggle. Mr. Baldwin said that there could no longer be a Republican Party for the Negro people as long as it existed a War woman, nor a Democratic Party for the Negro people with a Senator Eastland on its roster. He asserted that the federal government acted swiftly and energetically, that unless the federal government acted swiftly and energetically, future slaughter would make Birmingham look like a dress rehearsal. What do you think about
She is also the ranking member on the Financial Services Committee. Good to see you, Congresswoman. All right, so what will be the focus for the next 19 days? Do you see that there will be an agreement in border funding to avoid another shutdown?
Well, I certainly hope that we can get an agreement. It's been too long. Too many of our federal employees have suffered. We saw the suffering. We saw federal employees standing in food lines. And so I'm hopeful that this is a serious and credible negotiation, and particularly on the president's part. You know, the president changes his mind. if he's going to, abide by any rules of negotiation. As a matter of fact, I was stunned after he came out and announced that he was going to participate in opening up the government. He started to do the attack again, and basically
He started to threaten, the emergency.
That's right.
And even you heard from, Mick Mulvaney, who said once again, while the president wants to keep the government open, they are exploring places where they could extract money to help justify this emergency declaration. So which is it? What is the sense you get from the White House in terms of how it will be participating in any negotiations?
It's hard to believe that he's prepared to seriously negotiate when he's making his demands outside of the negotiation already. First of all, he's talking about he's got to have a certain amount of money. He's also talking about how terrible it is with the rapists and the drug dealers and on and on and on. That's not how you enter a negotiation. You shut up and you shut down and you get into the negotiation and you legitimately lay your concerns on the table, and people are prepared to talk about what they can and cannot do.
So does this tell you that it's going to be a repeat experience?
I hope not. We believe in border security, and we have offered how we think it can be done. We want to make sure that he understands that it's not simply about a wall. I want him to think about, and we want him to think about technology. We want him to think about drones. We want him to think about all of those things that go into having a secure border. And so I just don't know. I don't trust him very much because he's agreed to some things and then backed off of them. And I just hope that he understands he put this nation in danger. Just think what is happening to our air traffic controllers. Many of them are under a lot of stress because they did not get their pay. They had to come back to work because they were considered among those employees that must work despite the fact that they're not getting paid. They're under stress. Many of them are working long hours. Some of them are working in towers with only one individual there, one traffic controller, air traffic controller. And so I don't know if he understands that he was about to shut this nation down.
Except, is that the imagery and are those the sentiments from air traffic controllers and flight attendants that actually got the president's attention, seeing how commerce, how the economy was being disrupted with these, ground stoppages, because we heard from federal workers for, 5 weeks who talked about their personal hardships. So it was another thing to see those images perhaps on television, and then you had the president say, government back open again.
Well, I think that the air traffic controllers sent us a serious message. They sent out a letter that talked about the dangers that were possibly involved in what was going on, and said it was so awesome and so huge, the possibility of the risk that was being, put into effect by this president. They couldn't even tell you how bad it was going to be. I think that had something to do with it, but the most thing is Nancy Pelosi had made a legitimate offer. Nancy Pelosi had also employed a legitimate strategy. So it's a combination of those things that made him back down. He had to back down. He had no choice. So he should not come into this negotiation with threats.
So there was real unity demonstrated by the Democrats, perhaps by a representation of the president's thinking this go round with 19 more days. This is what the acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney had to say this morning about the White House's, the president's persistent demand for the wall.
Well,
there are some pots of money that are easier to get to than to others. And again, this is not something we're shooting off from the hip. We've been working on this for months. We have been hoping for months to do it through legislation with Democrats because that's the right way for the government to function. But at the end of the day, the president's commitment is to defend the nation, and he'll do it either with or without penalty.
So again, hours after the president made his announcement, he was tweeting about this option of an emergency declaration. So how is
Well,
many
there's a
years
large
ago
number of
said,
white students who have gone into the
only
South,
those
looking for
who
SNP
dare
and other
fail
organizations.
Not working for Senate or other organizations, but
can
working for
ever
the white
achieve
political
greatness.
machines who benefit by the voting efforts of Negroes.
Okay, I'll be more specific. I would cite Herbert Hill, for example, as a kind of person who has championed Negro job rights, for example, in New York City and elsewhere. He has fought the political machine.
The first time I met Herbert Hill personally was when they were picketing to stop the working on the Harlem Hospital in Harlem. Negroes for 10 years had to fight the city to get an annex built on the Harlem Hospital. Because in Harlem, we need a hospital more so than anything else. Our people are sick. Plus, we do a lot of cutting and shooting in this area, protecting and non-violent. And Herbert Hill brought his forces out and stopped the working on that site. This is the first time I understand. Then, when work was brought to a halt on the hospital in Harlem, the same Negroes tried to stop the work at the downstate medical center in Brooklyn, which is predominantly Harlem. They were out there for 3 months during the summer. Couldn't stop anything. And I never saw Herbert Hill out there. Now, whenever it takes a statute that something is going to affect the white man, you find the white liberal answer. But it's when it involves something that primarily will affect the best interests of black people, and black people only, then that white liberal is present. Herbert Hill is the labor secretary for the NAACP. And if he was interested in black people, he would prepare a black man with the type of knowledge and understanding of the labor troubles involving black people that would enable a black man to sit in the same position as Secretary of Labor or Labor Secretary in the NAACP. I'm suspicious of whites who join Negroes and always have to be in the lead, who always have to be the head, who always have to be at the top in Negro organizations. Those whites who really have the interest of black at heart, let them give some advice to some Negroes and stand on the sideline. But don't join the organization and then get at the head of it and pose as a friend of Negroes.
Well, I would and more than that, I would say that just because a person is a Negro or a black American does not mean he's going to struggle for Negro rights or for jobs for Negroes or anything else. I think that today you could point to a large number of Negro leaders who have consistently betrayed Negroes and come close to their.
They aren't really Negro leaders. These are puppets that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. These are parrots that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. You can't name me a Negro leader who has been who has betrayed Negroes, who has not been endorsed, sanctioned, subsidized, and supported by the white liberals.
Mr. Malcolm, I'd like to.
Well, I can cite one example. Congressman Dawson, for example, in Chicago. In Chicago, a large number of liberals located in high politics have consistently fought Dawson and control over the Negro. They also fought some of the people who represent Dawson in Chicago City Council.
Only Negro politician that I know who is constantly fought by white liberals is Adam Clayton Powell. And they call him a racist because he speaks so bluntly on the race issue. But I'm not, as I said, not too familiar with Dawson or that word.
Let me return to the Nation of Islam per se, Minister, by raising a question which struck me as a result of reading some of Baldwin's work, namely The Paradox Time. Baldwin pointed out that in Harlem for many years he had passed the street corners and soapboxes and heard people speaking from these platforms that were known as black nationalists, and nobody was listening. And he said all of a sudden he realized that people were beginning to listen to the Muslim speakers on the street corners in Harlem. The message essentially was the same, but it was that now many people were listening to what this message was. And you pointed out that the Nation of Islam has been in the picture for about 33 years. What is it, in your judgment, that has caused this tremendous amount of support that the Nation of Islam has garnered in the Negro community in, say, the last 10 years?
When you put a seed in the soil, it remains beneath the soil until the season changes. And when the season changes, the seasonal change automatically brings about rather atmospheric atmospheric conditions bring about a seasonal change that makes that seed come up or crop grow in its appointed time. And all over this world today, God himself has brought about political change, a political atmosphere, sociological, social atmosphere, economic atmosphere. These economic conditions, these political conditions, social conditions, combine to bring about a situation that is making black people in America more receptive, their mind more fertile to the seed of truth that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been planting for 30-some years. And this is springing up today and causing our people to see and understand now what they couldn't see and understand before.
What is the nature of the situation that's making black people more receptive?
You take in the past, say 15 years, how the nations have emerged, dark nations have emerged in Africa. Prior to 10 years ago, most Negroes identified Africa with a savage, jungle-like place. And whenever you mention the word African, in their mind's eye, they can see the image of someone running around with a spear, with no language, who'd say, or something, and who'd be in the jungle running from lions or chasing lions. But then when, after the war, when the United Nations was set up in New York City, black people began to look at men like Tom and Boyle. They began to look at men like Nkrumah. They began to see men like Lumumba. They began to see men like Nasser. They began to see these Bellow and Zikwe, who could exchange intellectually with whites on an international level in a political form and hold their own. This made the black people in this country realize that what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had been teaching all the time actually had substance. And they began to turn it over in their mind and see that what he was saying had more weight to it than what these other Negroes were saying. And they began to identify themselves with the black world and the black struggle more closely than they identified themselves with the so-called white world.
Let me ask you a question with respect to a statement which SNU quotes as being on a bulletin board in the University of Islam in Chicago by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. According to SNU, Mr. Muhammad states, "Up, you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will. Build your future on these foundations: freedom, justice, and equality." What is the definition of freedom, justice, and equality for the black man, and where and when is it to be attained?
Well, take equality first. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad doesn't teach us to associate equality with whites. Equality has nothing to do with whites. We don't want to be equal with the white man. He's not the criteria or yardstick by which equality is measured. He's not in a position to tell us we're equal. It's not his right. It's not his to do. Equality, we want equality. We had equality before the white man was created. We had equality before the white man came into existence. And we want equality whether the white man is on this earth or not. Equality means the opportunity to develop all of our dormant potential, all of our dormant capability. And in developing this dormant capability, the right and the ability to stand on this earth on some land of our own and bring about a civilization and a society in which we will be completely independent, complete freedom to take care of the needs, to take care of the wants and the likes and the dislikes of our people, to establish our own nation, our own society, our own heaven, our own future. This is what we mean by freedom, by equality. And justice means as you sow, so shall you reap. If you do wrong, you'll get wrong in return. And if you do right, you'll get right in return. When you're in your own nation, in your own land, you're in a position to get justice. But when you're in another man's country, in another man's land, under another man's flag, and under another man's government, and under another man's court system, you have to look to that other demand for justice, and you'll never get it. And Negroes in this country probably have authorities on that.
To what extent does this formulation approach that expounded by Zionists? They, for example, many Zionists maintain they would never expect justice in the Zionist courts and the courts found in other countries in Eastern Europe and so on. And they decided that it would be wise to establish a separate state in Israel.
And all of the world powers got together, the white world powers, they got together, and helped all of these white Jews to establish a separate state in the heart of a dark-skinned people's territory. And if white people can get together and let other whites, help other whites to establish an independent nation right in the midst of dark-skinned people, and then we don't see where white people should be so much against the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's solution, not of setting up an independent dark nation in white people's property, but he's asking the opportunity to set up an independent nation on our own country. Let us leave America and go back home among our own people on our own land and set up our own independent society. But all he says is that this government, which made us slaves, should supply the transportation for us to get back home and give us all of the machinery and the tools necessary for us to till the soil and establish our own agricultural system to feed and clothe our people, our own economy, and in some way become an independent people among our own people on our own continent. This is intelligent. And Zionists should never criticize us.
You say then that the United States is not the black man's country.
Definitely
American laws are not the black man's laws.
No.
And American laws are not the black man's laws.
Well, the laws here in America were made by white people for the benefit of white people. The Constitution was written by whites for the benefit of white people. It was never written for the benefit of blacks. And when you read the Constitution, I think in Article 1, Section 2, or Section 1, Article 1, one of the two, and it's in the Constitution, it says that it classifies black people as 3/5 of a man. 3/5 of a man, subhuman, less than a human being. It relegates us to the level of cattle, hogs, chickens, cows, a commodity that could be bought and sold at the will of the master. No, it was written by whites for the benefit of whites and to the detriment of blacks. And when a black man stands up talking about his constitutional rights, he's out of his mind.
Mr. Malcolm, in our textbook, which the students have read, supposedly, there is a statement, which is a quotation from Essien, and essentially that from Lincoln, to the effect that the Nation of Islam does not have a great deal of support in the Negro community in this country by and large. And a recent national poll of American Negroes found that leaders and rank and file, according to their statistics, supported the Reverend Martin Luther King somewhere over 90%, whereas the support and favorable rating that they gave Minister Muhammad was less than 20%, and somewhere around 45% of them gave an unfavorable rating to Mr. Muhammad. What would your response be in terms of Baldwin's statement that this is a growing thing and the kinds of evidence that we have that there isn't much to it?
Well, that statement I made just made concerning the Constitution's Article 1, Section 15, where it classifies us as chattel. Baldwin did point out that Mr. Muhammad has only grassroots support and is the only one whose whole following also functions on the mass level. And I think Baldwin told Dr. King Clark that Martin Luther King is at the end of the road. Now, concerning the poll taken by Newsweek magazine, I think you said that this was the leaders who said that, who went with King against Mr. Muhammad around 90%. I just told you a little while ago, these leaders that they call leaders, this included Lena Horne, this included Dick Gregory, this included comedians, comics, trumpet players, baseball players. Show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader, or a dancer or a trumpet player is a white leader. These aren't leaders. These are puppets and clowns that have been set up over the white community and over the black community by the white community and have been made celebrities and usually say exactly what they know that the white man wants to hear. And it is an honor, actually, that they endorse Dr. Martin Luther King and were against the honorable election of the Secretary. Now, when you say that they also, in the same Newsweek poll magazine, I think the pollster said that he went into the Negro community and asked about the Muslims. And many Negroes whom he asked said, well, I never heard of the Muslims. Who are they?
This is the rank and file.
Oh yeah, now when they got down to the rank and file, this was the answers. This is the equivalent to the situation in Kenya during the Mau Mau uprising, when many frightened whites in Kenya, Africa, would go among the Africans and ask them, what about the Mau Mau? And the Africans said, I never heard.
We say that it comes from I know that you took the position that this was a matter of satisfaction to you for any injustice done against you, and I think that that's a trifle severe.
We did not think that it was a coincidence that 120 of the blacks on this plane came from the state of Florida.
In the Newsweek poll, they used Negro interviewers.
It has the worst record in
You'll find that oftentimes Negroes are as much on guard around Negro interviewers, who usually represent the bourgeois element of Negroes, as they are on guard around whites. Usually Negroes know that when this bourgeois Negro walks through the door, he is not doing something that he's initiated himself, but he's involved in something in which the white man is the absolute author of, and has sent him to the Negro community for some information. And when they give that Negro some information, usually they give him the information that they want him to take back to the white man. So that we're going to take it back.
Our time is just about up, Minister Malcolm, and perhaps you could summarize and conclude by giving us, in your opinion of Mr. Elijah Muhammad, what would be the ideal solution to the racial problem in the United States today?
Well, on Thursday, October the 3rd, the Tribune, in an editorial, pointed out in an article called The Civil Rights Iceberg, they pointed out how Kennedy had realized that beneath the water, the civil rights whole problem was political suicide. Because in his own hometown, the head of the Board of Education, a woman named Mrs. Hicks, was running against the NAACP philosophy, and she swept aside all other opposition. The whole white community supported her in opposition to the NAACP's desire for integrated schools, integrated housing, and otherwise. So I say that to say this, that even the Jewish community, which is supposed to be pro-liberal, went against the NAACP. Whites are against integration in practice, but they're for it in principle. So the only solution is separation. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that this will be brought about simply by letting our people be exposed to the truth about ourselves, about the white man, about our history and our conditions in this country. And once we are exposed to the complete truth about things as they actually exist in this country, the masses of black people will choose complete separation from this entire system, political system, economic system, social system, and whatever other aspect or description adjective you want to attach to it. Let us go back home to our own people, live among our own kind, and solve our own problems ourselves. If the white man doesn't want us to go back to our own people and live in our own country, then since we can't get along together in peace on this country, we're the white people. Let us separate part of this continent, migrate to that separate territory, let the government give us everything we need to establish our own independent economic system and society, and thereby we will be able to solve our own problems ourselves and prove that we are human beings and a part of the human family and can do for ourselves what other humans have done for themselves. And then we'll be able to stop blaming the white man for what he has done and stop begging the white man to solve our problems. We'll be able to solve our problems ourselves.
That's it.
everybody wins. You want something though? You want to go big with me? Oh, I see.
What Mr. Muhammad had said is that he wants freedom, justice, and equality for the black people here in America, which you agree they don't have. If they did, you wouldn't have a race problem. And he says, if America cannot bring about freedom and equality for our people in this country, then America should allow us to leave. If we can't get along together, we should be allowed to depart and go someplace where we can set up homes for ourselves. Then he says, if America does want us to go there, then we can't stay and we get along together in peace. He says what America should do is separate our countries and give us a section where we can live and give us everything we need to get our particular section functioning independently. Support us for 25 years. Until we are able to function independently in a society of our own. And in this way, the problem will be solved. Let's mature. You say there's no Jew population. What is the discipline? Oh, number one, one of the first things that Mr. Muhammad teaches is you have to set an example if you want others to do right. And he teaches the grown-up Muslims to live a highly disciplined and a highly moral life, high moral. And by the parents displaying the highest of morals in front of the children at all times, automatically this sets a pattern for an example for the children. And in our schools, our children, the emphasis is placed upon the recognition of authority. And by the children recognizing authority and respecting authority, for anyone who is not authority to teach the child and discipline the child and make the child aware of the importance of living a life in accordance with the law, even after you grow up. How did you have to be taught? I was in prison. I was a very wayward, criminal, backward, illiterate, uneducated, and whatever other negative characteristics you can think of, type of person, until I heard the teachings of the Honorable back in Muhammad. And because of the impact that it had upon me, and giving me a desire to reform myself and rehabilitate myself for the first time in my life, also being able to see the effect that it had upon others, that's what made me effective. And plus, prior to hearing what he teaches, I had no interest whatsoever in anything serious or any kind of faith. And I noticed that after being exposed to the religious teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, immediately it instilled within me such a high degree of racial pride and racial dignity that I wanted to be somebody. And I realized that I couldn't be the white man for what he had, but that I had to get out there and try and do something for myself or make something out of myself. What is that a role in the person who is the question of course, what was the argument? Well, most critics say that the dissatisfied follow and I think you'll agree that sociologists and other experts say that the masses of black people are dissatisfied, unemployed, unprepared, and fed up. So that he actually gets this report at the mass level. But then you have other people at the class level who pretend not to vote for him. So usually there's a job has been given to them by white men. They have positions to which they have been appointed. And they think that the only way that they can protect their job is by pretending in front of white man that they don't vote for Mr. Muhammad either. But you might not vote. They all have their argument. I couldn't say. I've never heard him say the only one who would know. I couldn't say. I think that anyone who does this is not a position. So anyone who knows wouldn't say. But do you think that certainly the NAACP have accomplished your people? Oh, in their own way, they have been doing their best to bring about freedom, justice, equality, and human dignity for the black people in this country. But today we have an intense degree of dissatisfaction and impatience existing among our people at the mass level that is almost against their own will. Usually, the device of Congress have always been used by the oppressor to keep the oppressed oppressed. And the NAACP has been used against the Muslims that have been made to use against them, but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he'll work with the NAACP, the Urban League, and any other Negro organization that wants to uplift the black man, as long as it doesn't conflict with our religious principles.
I remember once when Elijah was quoted as having said that the Urban League, the NAACP, sold out to the white man. Has he ever made that statement?
To my knowledge, I don't think that he has said that they sold out to the white man. And I heard him say that
His feeling.
the NAACP has been in existence for 54 years. And they elect a new national president every year. And they have never elected a black man to sit in that capacity. Arthur Spengler has been president of the NAACP for 24 years. And so in this sense, it means that either they're practicing the same discrimination that they accuse the white man of practicing, they're practicing it themselves, or else they're not qualifying other Negroes in that organization for the positions of leadership. This is our only criticism.
I personally feel that they have sold out to the white man. You personally feel that those organizations have sold out to the white man.
I don't think that they would knowingly allow themselves to be used or misused against their own people. So if they are failing to do the job that our people are expecting of them, probably it's just through lack of understanding. But today, their understanding is increasing, and you'll find that they're developing a better ability to work with all different factions for the betterment of our people.
Malcolm, how do you yourself feel about the white man?
I believe that the white man has done a great injustice to the black man in this country by having kidnapped our people and brought us here and down to the level that we're on today. And today, instead of approaching the factors that their original mistake has created, instead of approaching the factors of objectively and realistically, the greatest thing that they're doing now is trying to pretend that they never committed a crime, that they never did any wrong. And when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad pointed out the injustices that our people are suffering, they make that same word by accusing him of hate, or by accusing him of black supremacy, or by accusing him of advocating violence. Simply because he is pointing out the real factors that are out there.
You don't have to. You were born in Omaha.
Yes, sir.
Your family left Omaha when you were 1 year old.
I imagine about a year old. Well, to my understanding, it was a man. Burned down one of their homes in Omaha.
This made your family feel very happy.
Well, insecure.
So you must have somewhat predisposed to personally predisposed to the Catholic broad academic sort of wisdom.
I think that's correct. Because despite the fact that happened in Omaha, and then when we moved to Lansing, Michigan, our home was burned down. Again, but my father was still by the Ku Klux Klan. And despite all of that, no one was more thoroughly integrated with whites than us. No one had lived more so in the society whites than us. And it was only until I became a Muslim that I lived in the society.
So you were thoroughly integrated with white people. You have white people in your family background.
Most neighborhoods in this country have white their family background.
How are you going to differentiate the white brothers and the Negro brothers? You don't mind my just
No, well, I use it.
I know you do that.
Well, I use it, it's the perfect view, because I use it against my, I use it against my,
You use it voluntarily to stop the incidents in Los Angeles.
no, I use it against my will.
No,
but when I say that the cops in Los Angeles shot down 7 Negroes, every Negro in the audience knows what I'm talking about. But when I say that they shot 7 Muslims, and a lot of the Negroes don't realize what you're talking about. I don't have. That's just what I'm calling on this road. That's color.
black.
Black. Well, we can use black in that picture.
But I'm thinking back to the
that you go back home. Now, what do you mean by back home? I only heard the honorable Elijah say back on my house from where back home? No, right, back home. But by that you mean back into Israel, or you mean back to Africa? Back home. And by back home we mean back to our original civilization. And if you study history, the Islamic culture existed in West Africa, but you gotta have it come from Islamic background. It came from the far sides of Africa. I think that my that one of the Islamic culture existed largely in Africa, Central Africa. I recognize that. Let's go down.
With regard to that tragedy out there in Los Angeles, I myself referred to it when it happened as a tragic police action, so I'm not totally biased. Coming from Muhammad's Speech, which is the publication of your cult or your religion, Elijah Muhammad referred to the policemen out there, the white policemen, as devils. He said, there is no justice here for us black people, there is no future for us nor our children in civilized America. Doesn't that imply that you're going to get out, or that's his wish to get out?
And he referred to those policemen out there as devils, who were heavily armed and used as defense Negroes, whom they were shooting down in cold blood, were not heavily armed. I don't think that those policemen themselves were denied to the devil, nor were any Negroes who witnessed such a deed denied that they are devils.
Well, that's the other part of it. There's no justice here for us black people. There's no future for us nor our children in civilized America. And I didn't make that up. He said it in his own
And he's correct in what he said, sir.
Well, what does it mean? You're going to get out?
It's one and the same thing that Attorney General Dr. Kennedy, when he said that the number one domestic problem in America is the race problem, that it is almost impossible to solve. It's almost impossible to get justice to Negroes.
One great thing further, I have read also in Muhammad's Speech the quotation that Elijah Muhammad is the only person out there who is a personal speaking terms with God. Do you believe that?
Then I have to later of that. We've done a good job of prohibiting the place that had your answer. I'm in Chicago for the next 3 weeks at the local mosque in 54th and Greenwood for a special inspection.
Welcome our honored and distinguished guest, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King.
Thank you very kindly. Principal Fornese, Mr. Williams, members of the faculty and members of the student body of Barrett Junior High School, ladies and gentlemen. I need not pause to say how very delighted I am to be here today and to have the opportunity of taking a brief break and a pretty busy schedule in the city of Philadelphia to share with you the students of Barrett Junior High School. And I wanted to express my personal appreciation to the principal and the administration for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to see this very fine and enthusiastic group of students here at Barrett. I guess I ought to start out with a commercial, and that is tonight we're going to have a great night in the city of Philadelphia at the Spectrum. Now, I know you've heard of that new impressive structure called the Spectrum.
Old dogmas,
And I know you've heard of Harry Belafonte and Aretha
so-called
Franklin
experts who have
and
been
Nipsey Russell and Sidney Poitier and all of these other
time.
great and outstanding artists. Well, they're going to be here tonight at the
This is true
Spectrum.
not only in matters
And I
of
hope
peace,
that each of you will go home and tell your parents to be there tonight for this great Freedom
we
Festival.
believe
And I hope
that
you will
trade
come also,
must
for
be
it
fair
will be
and
a
reciprocal.
great experience. And
The
by
United
coming,
States will not be taken
you will
advantage
be
of
supporting
any longer.
the work of the civil rights
United States
movement.
opens its economy,
Now that I've gotten the
largest
commercial
by
out of the
far
way,
on earth, with few
I'll move
conditions.
on and
We allowed foreign
say some things
all over
that
the
I
world to flow freely
want to say very
to our
briefly.
subways.
And I'm being very honest,
Other
I'm going to
countries
be
did
brief
not grant us fair and reciprocal
because I have
access to
other
their
engagements.
markets.
I don't have a tradition of being brief all the time. You know, I'm a Baptist preacher. We can talk a long
Their
time.
products, subsidize
But I'm
their
gonna
goods,
really be
target
brief
our
today.
industries, and manipulate
I want to
our
ask you a
currencies to
question,
gain
and that
unfair
is, what
advantage over our country.
is in
As a
your
result, our
life's
trade deficit
blueprint?
ballooned to nearly $800 billion a year. For
This
reason,
is the
we
most
are
important
systematically renegotiating
and crucial period of your life. For what you do now and what you
last month. We
decide
announced a
now at
groundbreaking
this age
US-Mexican
may
trade
well
deal.
determine
And just yesterday,
which way your
I
life
spoke with
shall
President
go.
to announce the successful
And whenever a
completion
building
of
is
the brand
constructed,
new US-Korea trade deal.
you usually have an architect who draws a blueprint.
Many nations in this
And that
world agree
blueprint
that
serves
world
as
trading
the
system
pattern,
is in
as
dire need of
the
change.
guide,
For example,
as
countries
the model
change.
for those who are to build the building.
Were admitted to the World Trade
And a
Organization
building is not
that
well
violate every
erected
single principle on which the organization
without a
is based.
good, sound, and solid
Well, the United
blueprint.
States and many other nations play by the rules.
Now each of you is in the process
Planning and state-owned
of
enterprises
building
to
the
rig
structure
system in their favor.
of your life.
They engage in relentless
And the question is
force,
whether you have a
technology
proper,
transfer,
a solid,
theft of intellectual.
and a sound blueprint.
The
And I want
United
to
States lost
suggest
over 3 million manufacturing jobs.
some of the
One
things that should
of all
be
steel jobs.
in your life's
60,000
blueprint.
factories after China joined the WTO.
Number one
We have
in your
racked up
life's blueprint
$13
should
trillion in
be
trade deficits over the last
a
2
deep
decades.
belief
But those days are over.
in your own dignity, your own worth,
Such abuse.
and your own
We will not
somebody.
allow our workers to be victimized.
Don't allow anybody to make you feel
And our
that
wealth
you are nobody.
plundered and transferred.
Always feel that you
America will
count.
never apologize for
Always
protecting
feel that you have worth.
the United States.
And always feel that your life
$200 billion.
has ultimate significance. Now that means that you should not be ashamed of your color.
Have great respect and affection for my friend.
You know, it's very unfortunate that in so many instances, our society has placed a stigma on the Negro's color.
And the way they deal,
You know, there are some Negroes who are ashamed of
as
themselves.
my administration has demonstrated.
Don't be ashamed of your color.
in our
Don't be
nation.
ashamed of your biological features. Somehow you must be able to say in your own lives and really believe it, I am black but beautiful. And believe it in your heart. And therefore you need not be lured into purchasing cosmetics advertised to make you lighter, Neither do you need to process your hair to make it appear straight. I have good hair, and it is as good as anybody else's hair in the world. And we got to believe that. Now, in your life's blueprint, be sure that you have that a principle of somebody. Secondly, in your life's blueprint, you must have as a basic principle the determination to achieve excellence in your various fields of endeavor. You're going to be deciding as the days and the years unfold what you will do in life, what your life's work will be. And once you discover what it will be, set out to do it and to do it well. And I say to you, my young friends, that doors are opening to each of you. Doors of opportunity are opening to each of you that were not open to your mothers and to your fathers. And the great challenge facing you is to be ready to enter these doors as they open. Ralph Waldo Emerson, the great essayist, said in a lecture back in 1871 that if a man can write a better book or preach a better sermon or make a better mousetrap than his neighbor, even if he builds his house in the woods, the world will make a beaten path to his door. That hasn't always been true, but it will become increasingly true. And so I would urge you to study hard, to burn the midnight oil. I would say to you, don't drop out of school, and I understand all of the sociological reasons why we often drop out of school. But I urge you, in spite of your economic plight, in spite of the situation that you are forced to live so often with intolerable conditions, stay in school. And when you discover what you're going to be in life, set out to do it as if God Almighty called you at this particular moment in history to do it. And just don't set out to do a good Negro job, but do a good job that anybody could do. Don't set out to be just a good Negro doctor, a good Negro lawyer, a good Negro school teacher, a good Negro preacher, a good Negro barber, a beautician, a good Negro skilled laborer. Or if you set out to do that, you have already flunked your matriculation exam for entrance into the University of Integration. Set out to do a good job and do that job so well that the living, the dead, or the unborn couldn't do it any better. Falls your lot to be a street sweeper. Sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures. Sweep streets like Beethoven composed music. Sweep streets like Leontine Price sings before the Metropolitan Opera. Sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets so well that all the host of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, here lived a great street sweeper who swept his job well. If you can't be a pine on the top of the hill, be a scrub in the valley. But be the best little scrub on the side of the rill. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. For it isn't by signs that you win or you fail. Be the best of whatever you are.
ways, we already have some noble examples of black men and black women who demonstrated to us that human nature cannot be cataloged. They in their own lives have walked through long and desolate nights of oppression, and yet they've risen up and plunged against cloud-filled nights of affliction, new and blazing stars of inspiration. And so from an old slave cabin in Virginia's hills, Booker T. Washington rose up to be one of America's great leaders. He lit a torch in Alabama, and darkness fled in that setting. Yes, you should know this because it's in your own city. From a poverty-stricken area of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Marion Anderson rose up to be the world's greatest contralto, so that a Toscanini could say that a voice like this comes only once in a century, and Sibelius of Finland could say, "My roof is too low for such a voice," from the red hills of Gordon County, Georgia. And the arms of a mother who can neither read nor write, Roland Hayes, rose up to be one of the world's great singers and carried his melodious voice into the palaces and mansions of kings and queens. From crippling circumstances, there came a George Washington Carver to carve for himself an imperishable niche in the annals of science. There was a star in the diplomatic sky, and then came Ralph Bunce, the grandson of a slave preacher. He reached up and grabbed it and allowed it to shine in his life with all of its scintillating beauty. There was a star in the athletic sky. Then came Jackie Robinson in his day, and Willie Mays in his day with their powerful bats and their calm spirits. Then came Jesse Owens with his fleet and dashing feet. Then came Joe Louis and Muhammad Ali with their educated fists. All of them came to tell us that we can be somebody, and to justify the conviction of the poet, fleecy locks and black complexion cannot forfeit nature's claim. Skin may differ, but affection dwells in black and white the same. If I were so tall as to reach the pole, or to grasp the ocean at a span, I must be measured by my soul. The mind is the standard of the man. Finally, in your last blueprint must be a commitment to the eternal principles of beauty, love, and justice. Don't allow anybody to pull you so low as to make you hate them. Don't allow anybody to cause you to lose your self-respect to the point that you do not struggle for justice. However young you are, you have a responsibility to seek to make your nation a better nation in which to live. You have a responsibility to seek to make life better for everybody. And so you must be involved in the struggle for freedom and justice. Now, in this struggle for freedom and justice, there are many constructive things that we all can do and that we all must do. And we must not give ourselves to those things which will not solve our problems. You've heard the word nonviolent and you've heard the word violence. I happen to believe in nonviolence. We struggle with this method with young people and adults alike. All serious in the North as they are in the South. But I believe as we struggle with these problems, we've got to struggle with them with a method that can be militant, but at the same time does not destroy life or property. And so our slogan must not be burn, baby, burn. It must be build, baby, build. Yes, our slogan must be learn, baby, learn, so that we can earn, baby, earn. And with a powerful commitment, I believe that we can transform dark yesterdays of injustice into bright tomorrows of justice and humanity. Let us keep going toward the goal of selfhood, toward the realization of the dream of brotherhood, and toward the realization of the dream of understanding goodwill. Let nobody stop us. I close by quoting once more the man that the young lady quoted, that magnificent black bard who has now passed on, Langston Hughes. One day he wrote a poem entitled Mother to Son. The mother didn't always have her grammar right, but she uttered words of great symbolic profundity. Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stab. It's had tacks in it, boards torn up, places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time, I've been a climbing on and reaching landings and turning corners and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So, boy, don't you stop now. Don't you sit down on the steps because you find it's kind of hard. But I'm still going, boy. I'm still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal staff. Well, life for none of us has been a crystal staff, but we must keep moving. We must keep going. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl, but by all means, keep moving.
You're
Malcolm, that's what the county is doing at 18 River Kid on the finger, like Moses. You know what I mean? I say like 50, say, took up English, always cool and decent. I was a belt, like 19, pull knocked it out, I'm just that way out of play. You just see me, I'm on stage, we're singing. Hands on Casey, great, I'm not there, lazy, dancing, children, day, pulled away, cut the rope and hurt to say, courage is good, that now or forever, I wish you up, the thing with the others. Oh yes, the thing, what a wonderful time, it was like, oh, you know, so, have ugly little boys, I don't know, I'm pretty cool, like boys say, you think that you got style, I'm going with the thing, with like, no, walking away, you're a little say, it's in the way, that's not, really say, don't shake my hand, look around the air, with a pretty fit, you never never gonna stick your gun, you can reach still with yourself, say the thing you see, it's a little, good, I'm just running, I have to see it from the leader, I'm a lady, I'm a special, and then, style.